got to say no to them. So my dedication to the next term is going to be this: round in my district and get the input from the folks that I'm representing. That means meeting with city managers and mayors, business leaders in the chambers, civic groups like the South Lake 912 Tea Party. Any group that really wants to meet with me gets to meet with me. I even had a group of Democrats stop by during the last session. I wasn't in the office at the time. I came back up to the office after a hearing, and my aide said, there were a whole bunch of Democrats from Lake County that wanted to meet with you. Should I schedule a meeting? I said, of course. I didn't hesitate to say, of course I'm going to meet with them. I represent them. I represent everybody once the election's over. And I met with them, and we had a very good, polite, respectful exchange of views. They told me they didn't agree with what I'm doing in a number of areas, and I respectfully accepted that input and told them why I didn't agree with them. And we closed out the meeting, and they felt, respected that I had taken the time to meet with them, and I felt respected that they came to me and met with me, even though I'm not of their party. That's what representation is all about. And so I'm going to reach out to folks in my district. We're going to get the input. I get 6 bill slots. I have to work on those bills and get them into drafting and get them filed and hopefully get them heard. And so to do that, I have to have your help. And appreciate the opportunity to have these remarks here. And I'm available to take any questions right now or afterwards, if not now. Thank you very much, and God bless.
We've got about 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for us?
The question is, will I continue to work on fighting unfunded mandates in Florida? And that is a very good question. It's actually something that we've prohibited in our state constitution already. You can't just put unfunded mandates on local governments anymore. That is no longer permissible in Florida. But it does happen anyway through more subtle legislation. I think the school districts are one of the biggest victims of this. We have had over the years lots of efforts to reform education, and they're all well-intentioned. And I believe in standards and assessment and accountability in education. But when you take all of the things that have been done over the last decade or more, and they've been layered on top of one another, when you get to the classroom as a teacher, they're finding it difficult to have quality time with the kids because they're so busy filling out forms and doing all these other things that have to be done to satisfy the bureaucratic requirements. One of the things I'd like to do in the next section is to develop an education bill that would attack some of these things that are not justified or that are duplicative, so that we can take the burdens off the teachers in the classroom and let them teach. That's an area of unfunded mandates that I think we can and should work on. Same thing for business. We've already eliminated lots of regulations on business, but we don't want to have some idea come along and it forces business to spend time and effort doing something that takes them off their core business, which is selling their product or their services, which then affects unemployment. So I'm definitely committed to doing that. Thank you for the question.
Right here in the third row.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much for bringing that up. This is one of the bills that I ran last session and the session before that. And this is a bill that's commonly known as American Law in American Courts. It's actually, the official title is the Application of Foreign Law in Certain Cases. This is a bill that I inherited actually when I first was elected. It wasn't something I created, but I had heard that it had been run before. It had actually been run by our local senator, Kerry Baker, in a prior session. Senator Baker was leaving the Senate, and it was a House sponsorship they were looking for, and I looked into this bill and filed it in 2011. It didn't get a hearing that year because it was drafted somewhat broadly, and I couldn't get it heard, frankly. Too many bills and not enough time is what I was told. But in 2012, I brought it back and I redrafted it. And what the bill does, it says to the Florida courts, if the bill was passed into law, that is, it would tell the Florida judiciary, if you are given a request to apply foreign law to a Florida case, or to enforce a foreign order, decree, or judgment based on foreign law, rather than follow the traditional conflict of laws or choice of laws guidelines that are in law now, and you can, in fact, apply foreign law currently. This bill would say, we want you to put a filter on that. We want you to make sure that if you're going to apply this foreign law, that foreign law does not violate the fundamental rights, privileges, and immunities guaranteed by the United States and Florida Constitution. one part about that was that if the law does violate it, they can apply it. And if it does not violate it, they could apply it. But the doomsday scenario that the opponents of the bill was trying to say, they said it violates religious freedom because it would somehow catch up Sharia law. We'll never mention Sharia law. Any foreign law that violates our constitutions is what we were attacking in that bill, not one particular one. But the bottom line is if the court says they can't apply the foreign law, they simply apply Florida law. You still get your day in court. You just have to follow the laws of our state and our courts. That's what happens if they implement the bill. So there's no reason not to pass that bill, and I'm going to bring it back and try to get it passed. I had a 92 to 24 vote in the House on that bill. That means 11 Democrats supported it, but we couldn't get it onto the floor of the Senate for a vote. Senator Hayes was the sponsor. He tried his best, but it ran into some problems over there, and I'm sure we'll bring it back and try to get it out.
Mr. Chairman, any questions over here?
I'm your neighbor, sir, now in the hills.
Yes, sir.
And I'm concerned about this taxing district for the hospitals. Could you give us a status of that?
Okay, yes, sir. You're referring to the North Lake County Hospital District and asking for a status update. Thank you very much. Folks, this is a special taxing district that was created decades ago, and it levies 1 mil on the properties in North Lake County. And the old law, the money was to be used for hospital services, which is a very nebulous public purpose, if you call it a public purpose at all. I don't think that's adequate. So the bill that I ran in 2012, this past session, House Bill 1299, was passed unanimously by the Florida House. In every committee that it went to, unanimous vote. It was passed unanimously by the Florida Senate, and the governor signed it after he lobbied for it. And it's now in law, and the North Lake County Hospital District Board of Trustees is now implementing the bill. And I think that's the question you're wanting to know, where is it at on the implementation phase? They're having workshops on it. What the bill does, it says that mandatory 1 mil that they've been collecting on folks for decades is now variable from 0 to a mil. I wanted that board to be able to make a decision to lower taxes, folks. They haven't been able to do it, but now they can. The other thing is, it says you can no longer just give that money unaccounted for to the hospitals for general hospital services. It has to be earmarked for payment of indigent care. And indigent care is defined in the bill so that they can't use it for something else. And then there's mandatory auditing of the hospitals on an annual basis to make sure that the accountability is there. And finally, the bill sunsets the district in 2017 unless the voters themselves say they want it to continue for another 10 years at a vote in 2016. So it puts the taxpayers in charge of their future at an election for the first time ever in that district. And that thing's been on the books in Northeast Lake County since 1957 and in Northwest Lake County since 1980. And originally it was for indigent care, but they amended that out to make it more liberal for the hospitals to just get general subsidization. And that's where they went wrong on it, because it's not accountable at all when you just say, here's the money, use it for whatever you want. And it has to be 1 mil every year. In 2002, 1 mil yielded $6 million, and the unemployment was 7%. 5 years later, 1 mil levied $12 million. It doubled the money they were getting, even though unemployment was cut almost in half. You would think if they're using it for indigent care, you need less money in low unemployment economies than more. But they were getting the money willy-nilly with no accountability, and that's why we filed the bill. Every member of the House voted for it. Should say, the Lake County Legislative Delegation, every House member advocated for that bill. Senator Hayes was originally opposed to it, but he came around to it and he voted for it, and I really appreciate his courage in doing that. It's not easy to change your position on something, but when you do it for bona fide reasons, you're to be applauded. And I would just say finally that on the actual vote in 2016, let's wait and see what the local board does to implement it. If they get it right and it's accountable, and we're getting our money's worth in terms of providing care to the indigent that are being served by the bill, that's fine. That's a good public purpose. The people that are at the very bottom that have no way of getting medical care, that can be done through a community responsibility if it's voter approved. But if they don't get it right and they start trying to manipulate it back to a general subsidy or something, then you can turn it down with the vote. And you'll be in charge of that if you're in North Lake County. So thank you for the question, sir.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions, so we thank you for your time, and we certainly appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.